Eagles made a couple of roster moves yesterday, which may indicate how serious some of the injuries are internally. One former Eagle gives a perfect trade opportunity for Philadelphia to fix the cornerback spot. Desai has a history of struggling against Mike Evans and Baker Mayfield. Darius Slay has a pretty simple message for the young cornerbacks on this roster. And Dallas Goedert continues to be upset that he's not getting any touches. I'm Thomas Mott. This is the Thomas Mott Show. What's up, guys? Thomas Mott here. Welcome to the Thomas Mott Show on a Thursday. Let's jump into some of the roster moves that happened yesterday that Philadelphia did that might indicate how they feel about some of the injured players currently on their 53-man roster. First of which, let's see, they elevated Britain Covey to the active roster, signed running back Brian Koback to the practice squad, and placed Avonte Maddox on injured reserve. Now, this is a little interesting because you still had one more time to elevate Britain Covey to the active roster before actually having to sign him to the active roster, but the fact that they went ahead and inked him to an actual deal, putting him on the 53, kind of indicates that Quez Watkins might be a little more banged up with that hamstring injury than originally reported. Outside DI Birds has a pretty good point on this, saying, quote, "The outcome I didn't see happening. My guess is Quez Watkins' injury is a bit more serious than we all would think. Covey obviously knows the system, was going to be elevated a third and final time anyway. Now they can use that elevation on Braden Mann and a cornerback." Now, elevating Britain Covey opened up a practice squad spot, and Philadelphia went ahead and filled that by bringing back linebacker Kyron Johnson to the practice squad to put the finishing touches on the current practice squad. But like we just said, Philadelphia still has one more player to activate alongside Braden Mann, and the question is, who's that going to be for Monday night? If they're still really worried about the cornerback slot, or maybe worried about the safety spot, it looks like there are a couple of options currently on this roster who make the most sense. One is Mekhi Gardner, the former draft pick out of LSU, who had some pretty decent time and pretty decent plays over the course of the preseason. And the other option would be newly re-signed cornerback Tywan Mullen, who was brought into that training camp. He was then released and now signs back with the Eagles practice squad. Now, Philadelphia still has not given us an update on the current injury status. Follow me on Twitter for whenever that goes ahead and drops. But where are we at with Kenny Gainwell's ribs, or Reed Blankenship's ribs, or Quez Watkins' hamstring injury, or the bevy of other injuries that have struck Philadelphia through the first 2 weeks of the NFL season? My guess is some of those players, they might be out for Monday night. Well, I hope that all are going to be able to play, as hinted at by Nick Sirianni in a press conference a couple of days ago. We have yet until probably Sunday afternoon, maybe Saturday morning, to find out who goes and who doesn't. Now, it is Thursday night, meaning there's Thursday night football tonight. And right now, the 49ers are 10.5-point favorites against the Giants, which you can bet on using my DraftKings link down below, or if you're a first-time DraftKings customer, you bet $5, you get $200 in free bets. How about this one right here? First-time TD scorer, Christian McCaffrey. You bet $100, you get $400, plus 300 odds that McCaffrey gets that first-time TD. Let me know what your bet is going to be tonight, and if you want to use DraftKings for the first time, check my link in the description box. Now, speaking of cornerback, everybody and their mother has given Philadelphia ideas on signing or trading this player, or signing or trading that player. Well, former Eagle Chris Long, he was on his podcast, and he made a pretty good point about trading for a cornerback who no one has really talked about for Philadelphia.
The Avonte Maddox injury was a real downer the other night for Eagles fans and for the Philly secondary. They felt the absence immediately. They're already dipping into the UDFA bag with a lot of guys that haven't played. Goodrich on Jefferson for any amount of time is going to be a thing you don't want to do on a regular basis. So what do the Eagles do with Sam Howell looming 2 weeks away? He's going to pick up the phone. The first guy off the top of my head was Budda Baker. Love the guy, but he's a little expensive. Maybe that was emotional of me. Once I came to my senses, I said, hey, Kenny Moore still exists. He's playing good ball in Indy. They didn't pay him this offseason. He's got length. He can play outside. He's good against man beaters. He's good in the run game. He's a guy that everybody really respects, but hasn't gotten that new deal in Indy. And I think adding him would give you a lot of flexibility with what you want to do in coverage.
And while this is purely speculation and not necessarily going to happen, I do like the idea of Kenny Moore, right? Would you be okay with trading for him? Sure, it's a rental, and sometimes people go down in the comment section below the like button and get upset, renting a player, we're going to have him for, the next 8, 9, 10 games, and he's going to walk in free agency. Yeah, but Philadelphia should be all in a season where they can go ahead and win a Super Bowl, and if cornerback's going to be a serious issue, especially nickel cornerback, maybe giving up a later round draft pick for Kenny Moore, then letting him walk in the offseason to get a brand new bag wouldn't be the worst idea. Now, speaking of defense, defensive coordinator Sean Desai, he has his work cut out for him on Monday night against a revamped and honestly pretty surprisingly good Tampa Bay Buccaneers squad. Now, Desai, as a defensive coordinator with the Chicago Bears, he played against Baker Mayfield when he was in Cleveland, and against Mike Evans and Chris Godwin when Tom Brady was their quarterback, and the stats, they weren't so great. Baker Mayfield was 19 of 31, 246 yards and a touchdown. They did have 5 sacks of him, that's positive, but Mike Evans had 6 for 76 yards, he had 3 touchdowns, 8 catches, 111 yards, and 1 touchdown for Chris Godwin. Philadelphia is going to have to make sure they slow down this revitalized passing attack, or else the weakened secondary might have a tough time against Mike Evans and company. Now, whoever's filling in at nickel cornerback, whether it's Mario Goodrich, Josh Jobe on the outside, Ricks gets some playtime. Darius Slay was asked about his advice to those young players, and honestly, it's the best that he could possibly give.
Like I said, it was tough, you know what I'm saying? Because guys, you know, this some guys' first actual live game, you know, as in season-wise. So it was tough, you know. But we working though. That's what great leaders do. With myself, I told everyone, calm your nerves. Just a game. We just have fun. The kids' game that we all grown men are playing. Just out here have fun. You know, you make a mistake, just go fast.
They are going to make mistakes. Every single young cornerback always makes mistakes. One of the hardest positions to play in the National Football League. And Big Play Slay makes a good point, right? Make a mistake, move on, just play fast. Play fast. Think fast, move on your feet fast, and hopefully these guys can start to kind of calm down and morph into this defense, become a part of this defense, and start getting some more stops, because as everybody knows, the weakest part of Philadelphia right now as an overall roster is the fact their secondary is getting gashed, early and often. Another weak part of the Philadelphia Eagles is their passing game, at least for the first 2 weeks of the season, and while you can argue it's Jalen Hurts or Brian Johnson, they need to figure out a way to get the ball to Dallas Goedert. And Dallas Goedert went on 94.1 WIP yesterday, and he didn't complain, but he didn't seem, again, thrilled to be not that big of a part of the passing attack.
My part in the pass game hasn't been as big as, I want it to be yet, but I believe that'll come. But the run game, that just gives me an opportunity to go in there and kind of impose my will on people. And, just anytime I can go in there and be with the old linemen, work with Jordan, work with Lane, work with other tight ends, it's a lot of fun moving guys around. And then when you get a running back that does what Swift does, it just makes it even that much better, Now,
it's a good overall answer, right? Yeah, I'm not getting many touches, but it's fun helping out in the running game and seeing the success there. But you got to get Dallas Goedert some more carries, and you got to give him some more touches. You got to put the football in his hands, because he's one of the best overall receivers in the entire National Football League from a tight end position. And the more that he can, flourish across the middle, stick routes, nod routes, whatever you want to call it, the more you can open up A.J. Brown deeper across the middle, Devontae Smith over the top, and yes, go ahead and improve on an already very, very dangerous run game. Do you guys think Dallas Goedert is just being underutilized? Do you think Jalen Hurts is not wanting to target him? Why do you think Goedert is not being used as much as we would think he would for the first 2 weeks? Let me read your comments in the comment section. Jalen Hurts can definitely be blamed for part of the Eagles' offensive struggles, despite the fact they are 2-0. When you go into more of the advanced stats, it is showcasing that his regression that people are trying to talk about isn't as big of a worry as you would think. Look at him against the blitz. he's one of 2 quarterbacks who have the highest passing grades against the blitz this year, one being Tua Tagovailoa with a 91.2, and the other being Jalen Hurts at 82.8. He also had his second highest career completion percentage last Thursday night against the Vikings, and a lot of people were upset about some of the throws that he actually made, albeit that interception, early on in the football game, but he was 18 for 23, had a 78.3% completion percentage. Weren't we all complaining about Jalen Hurts' his first year as a full-time starter not being able to get over 62% completion percentage? 78 in week 2, and very high in week 1. Jalen Hurts might be an issue in terms of some other things, but some of the big key factors, deep ball accuracy, completion percentage, and of course, play against the blitz, he's been up there towards the elite end of the quarterbacks in the league this year, and I think it's good news for his overall trajectory to continue to climb up after these 2 weeks. Now, Philadelphia had an Offensive Player of the Week in the NFC week 1, and that was Jake Elliott. Week 2, they have another one, and no surprise there, it's DeAndre Swift after his absolutely incredible performance against the Minnesota Vikings. He also received some pretty high praise from his offensive coordinator, Brian Johnson, where Johnson said, quote, DeAndre is an explosive player and explosive playmaker. He really had good vision. He did a great job staying square. It was great to see DeAndre come out and have such a huge performance in the home opener back in Philadelphia. Now, we mentioned yesterday that the Eagles, according to Dave Spadaro, the Eagles insider, are still going to be running back by committee and roll with the hot hand. But Josh Davis and I talked about it yesterday during our Wednesday Link Live. You need to make sure DeAndre Swift gets a fair amount of carries. Even if he's not hot early, keep giving him the rock, because he seems like such an explosive player, much like Shady McCoy was, where if you feed him, eventually he's going to reward you with a big run. Now, it's still up in the air if Kenny Gainwell is going to go ahead and play with those rib injuries. If he doesn't, look for DeAndre Swift to have another big night against a pretty darn good run defense in the Bucs, but a defense that can still give up some yardage with the Eagles' offensive line creating those holes. What do you guys think about the overall Monday night matchup? Are you worried? Are you not worried? Let me know down below in the comments section. As we go ahead and wrap up today, make sure to subscribe, because I bet tomorrow, at least I hope tomorrow, we're going to get an update from the injury status of all the star players who've been out the past week, and hopefully more of them are going to be able to play than not, but we'll have a full show and a full update on that tomorrow. Plenty of stuff happening in the next couple of days and weeks, including plenty of new shorts. If you've not seen those on my channel, check them out. We're very close to 19,000 subs as well. I cannot thank you guys enough for that. Let's keep it rolling. I'm Thomas Mott. This is the Thomas Mott Show.